Don't put down with the school. Hey, Mrs. Glenn.
Hello,
I left my USB here last Monday.
this is the one.
Thank you so much for.
You're welcome. You guys gonna need the hard drive from the chair, one each, please. Let me enable security on this.
I know they're 1050 Ti, but so am I at the right place? Yeah, you put in this stuff. Oh, up here. Yes. And type it in here. Yes.
Okay, so as we were saying, this is lab 5. The majority of it is just to get you comfortable with setting up IP addresses. We're going to talk a little bit about how we use IP addresses and how to administer IP address. So this lab, next lab, and the following lab is going to be about network administration, especially on Windows environment. So we are going to plug in our USB drive, okay, which is what you have, which is the plastic box. Some of you got the Chinese brand one. It might show up with Chinese character. That's okay, right? All I need is the storage. We are going to use virtual machine mostly because ICTD locks down their privilege, so you can't really configure their own systems. In the past, we were able to do that, but no longer, okay? So for now, what we're gonna do is we are gonna use a virtual machine and try to make sure that you put your name on the box when you finish. You guys gonna need the drive. I'm finishing up a couple more, so I will give guys a grab one of the boxes. All right, if you need one, I'm finishing with one, I'll give you that, okay? This one's almost done. Okay. So are we okay with this? Any questions?
Okay.
All right, let's get started. So we are going to access the virtual box. If you want, you can copy your virtual machine folder onto your desktop just in case. I did make multiple copies for you just in case it doesn't work. The hardest challenge is to get the virtual box to be working and your virtual machine opens. Okay, if you want to copy, this is what you do. Okay, on your drive, you would see something like this. Okay, when you open up, so open up this PC on your desktop, open up one of the drives, and you should have a folder called CIS40A VM. Inside it are virtual machines that you're going to need for today and future sessions. So what you're going to do is if you want to copy the virtual machine over the clone one or the VM one, I recommend getting the clone one. So copy it to your desktop or your downloads folder. Okay. Now, you should be able to follow the instruction and it should play directly from your drive without any kind of issue. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through that. But give me a second. I'm going to unplug one so I can give it to one of the students who doesn't have a drive. Everybody
Go through to CIS40A.
So you are going to open up VirtualBox in the first step. So search for VirtualBox. And then open up the app by clicking it. So this is step 1. Okay. So I need to open up VirtualBox by searching it. Now you notice that I have a bunch of other ones that are listed. In the future, this is for your own preference. if you are closing your virtual machine, you can always go back and reopen your virtual machine. But in the case that it's telling you it's aborted or it's inaccessible, you will right click it and then you can choose remove, but don't click delete all files. It's gonna wipe out all your VMs. If you remove from the list, just remove only, okay? So in the future, you see how this one is inaccessible and I wanted to take it off the list. I simply right click, choose remove and choose remove only. If you choose remove, delete all files, it's gonna delete your VirtualBox file and then you don't have one to play, okay? So think of virtual machine as a computer inside your computer. It is a way that we can virtualize the environment and be able to not have additional hardware. It is here to say everything that you use nowadays on the cloud are instances. All our servers are running as virtual machine on a server somewhere else, okay? So once you open up VirtualBox, I keep closing it. You can go to add, and then you find your virtual machine VBox file, which is on your drive. So I can use the one from my desktop, or I can browse to my E drive and then go to the folder. There's the Windows VM. If that doesn't work, find the clone. Okay. Any questions? Open up the folder and you're gonna find the .vbox file. It needs to be the .vbox file because the VDI is just a disk drive. It is not a bootable VirtualBox file. Okay, so the blue icon file is what you need, and you need to click open, and then you need to click start. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, yeah. We don't have that.
I'm sorry?
In our virtual block, we don't have that. Yeah.
And then with either Windows clone, open up the clone. Not that one. Windows 10. Windows 10. Go back one step.
Oh, you're down. That's the. That's fine.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so as you open up your virtual machine, make sure that you can play it from your drive, and then you can follow the step. Your login should be as shown, because I cloned them both, so they should all be the same. Now, if you have a drive that has other things, let me copy something for one of the students. Recognizing. And if you want, you can share with some. Yeah, my drivers are. Yes.
So he tried using
like the whole Windows like installation setup. And then you right, and then it just brought them back to the installation setup. Like
It shouldn't be.
No.
Yeah, right now copying the code, try that one out and see what happens.
Yeah, it should be. The clone is the same. It's the same for everyone. So I copied it. So I don't know. Maybe you're using a different folder from prior. Yes, you need a drive?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second, okay? Yeah, my PC is it's not recognizing the USB, so I'm gonna have to use this.
So I do for that. When I was program, my dad's in and they're like my school have a different
No, what you have to do is type. It doesn't type.
I asked my grandfather if he's like that's what school
Supposed to be on this.
and it's
Dramatic.
You're fine on the same.
Yeah, this one, I work at a grocery store, so I have to. It's bad, I can understand it. It replies or confident. Yeah. And then so I have.
Yeah, those don't have
They're like the confidence and I try to reply as much as.
Move it, yeah, precise. Very.
No, right? Right now, I'm not able to copy, so what we can do is, there's one that he's copying, and then when he's done, you can copy it to the desktop. Okay, so there is a drive that when the student is done, he can give it to someone and you can copy it to your desktop. And then you will be able to use it from your desktop. You don't have to have a drive. You can copy it to your desktop. It takes 6 minutes, which I have done for over 40 something drives. Okay, so let's go. So once you get here, you're just gonna go ahead and type in your password. And the password that you see is here, okay? So you're gonna use this password. Now, if you're using the old virtual machine, it is the same password, but the login name is slightly different. It says student instead of CIS40A student. It should use the same password. Okay, so once we get to the desktop, this is Windows 10 Pro. You should be able to follow. Did you copy already? Yeah. Okay. Actually, yeah. We'll just go ahead and use that.
Oh, no. Insert control.
Yeah.
try the normal package, CIS40, or 40A. 40A, and then exclamation point.
That's what I'm. Yeah, that's right. Oh, wait.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
You're gonna lose some files, so back to your file.
This is a different thing, that's weird. But we should be able to do something, so.
Okay, so once we are logged in,
I don't know why.
you're gonna open up control panel. We talked about this last time,
You.
okay? So in your virtual machine, now don't mix them up. This is what happens when students are using Windows 10 inside the virtual machine, which is inside that window, and then they try to do something on the outside. The outside host machine, that's the host machine, you cannot change anything. They lock it down pretty well, okay? So don't search here, search inside your VM. This is your VM Windows. Think of it like running a Blu-ray or a DVD. It's a little pop-up window that you're playing a virtual machine. It's a computer inside a computer. We're using the storage. So the host supplies most of the hardware except for the storage, right? So we're gonna open up control panel in the inside VM by searching for control panel, okay? And this is gonna come up. So by default, you would see control panel like this. And then once you are here, you are going to search for network and internet category. So as you look, you're gonna find network and internet, right? We're just gonna dismiss this little pop-up, network and internet, okay? This is where you're gonna use, we talked about this last time, to configure, right, your network interface card, your settings for your network, like your Wi-Fi and your wired network. So in control panel, we simply click network and internet. Which step am I at? I am at step 6. And then you're gonna find the link that's gonna say view network status and tasks. Come back to here and you should see the blue link right underneath the network sharing center. You're gonna click the blue link here, okay? Click that. We saw this before. Now, on the right-hand side, you should see a network or the Ethernet adapter. So anytime that you need to configure IP address, you need to go to your interface, which is your adapter. If you're using wireless, it should say Wi-Fi there, right? The host machine is going to default back to the Ethernet for the virtual when it hosts the virtual machine like this. So when I create the virtual machine, I just use one Ethernet adapter on my settings. This is what you see. So you click this, okay? Now, interviewers will ask you, how do you configure your IP addresses, right? The way to go is to get to your adapter settings or your adapter properties. So once we click the Ethernet right here, right, it tells you that once you're here, you are going to access the properties, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click properties sheet. So in here, it tells you everything that you need about that adapter. Number one, it tells you that this is a client for the Windows network. You can use it for file sharing. Quality of service, that's mentioned a lot for network environment. And here is IP address, version 4, okay? So it tells us that once you are here at the property, you're gonna select IP version 4, and you're gonna click property once again.
Yeah.
So make sure that you click on this and click on the properties button. This is gonna pop up. So by default, your Windows system is going to use dynamic IP, which is what the selection option that you see right there, right? Dynamic IP, it's going to obtain an IP address from DHCP server, which is the network server that's supplying the IP address. At home, that's your wireless router, Okay, so by default, this option is selected. Now, if we want to set a static IP, that means that we want this IP to stay the same forever. You are going to select the second option. Why do we need to do this? There are dedicated systems that doesn't require IP changes, like your servers, your printers. Anything that's there on the network should have a dedicated permanent static IP. Okay? So, what we're gonna do next is in the next step, it tells you to select the second option and you are going to put in the IP address. I had taped all your IP and information. You need to refer to that this lab and in the future lab because everybody should have a unique IP address. And I'll explain this. Okay, so you're going to use this IP address. And on your case, it should show you the IP address starting with 172. So when you take a look at this IP address by default, if you take a look at the subnet mask, because we talked about this as a zip code, we know that this is a class B address. Okay, if you watch the last video by now, you know the classes. So that's the difference between class B and class A is the number of addresses that you can have on the network. Class A has the most, right? So when you look at the 255, that means that the first 16 of the octet, the two octets, that's 16 bits, those bits are turned on. They're all ones. Now the router, it uses this to make sure that the packets get to that portion of the network. The router job is just to get, remember what I said before, the router gets you to the exit, okay? Let's say that you're traveling on the freeway, the router gets you to the exit. The switch gets you to the actual road that your home is located on. So it needs to get to that segment of the network, and then the switch is going to use the MAC address in the switch table to bring that to your computer. So you are going to enter the IP address that's given. So this is mine, okay? I'm using two systems of 172.16, I'm sorry, not 60, 0.100. Now, if you look at your neighbors, you're asking, why is it 0 and 100? If you look at this IP address, the subnet mask is going to tell you this is a classical address. That means that it uses the default subnet mask. So the first two octet, 172 and 60 for me, this represent the network number, okay? As those below, the subnet mask is 255, 255.0. As you click your cursor on it, it fills it out for you. So what does that mean? That means that it used the first two octet, the first two numbers between the periods, going to refer to that segment of the network, okay? So if we want separate network, we need to make sure that we change up those numbers. So if I can have 172.61, that's going to be a separate subnet, and so on, okay? The default gateway is your router, okay? By practice, we always use a .1 because it's the first system that you see when you enter a network, okay? You notice that my first network numbers are the same here, right? But the unique value for the host value is different. This is a 100 for my PC and the .1 for my router. If I have, let's say, a voice over IP switch, that will be maybe a .2, right? A print server, maybe that's a .5. So the host value needs to be unique, while the network values can be shared. You see? Understand? So how do I know that's a network value? The 255 represents, that is the net, the classful address, and the subnet is for class B. Okay, and we'll work with subnetting in the future. So this is my router, which is the gateway. Normally, we would use a .1 because that's the first system that you see when you're entering a network. Can they put that for a firewall? Sure. A lot of times you're gonna see a .1 for the router, .2 for a firewall. That's an edge firewall, right? They might have an intrusion detection system, another one, .3, and so on. So as you move inside the network, your host value is gonna change from 1, and it's gonna increment, and it's gonna continue all the way up to 254. Okay? Why can't I have 255? 255 is when all the 7 bits are on, and that becomes a broadcast value. Okay? So you can never have a host, a system that has a 255 unless it's sending to everyone, which is broadcast.
So, I have a question. Why is it the default gateway the same almost as the IP address?
It is not the same. This is 100 and this is a 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so the octet here, you can go from 0 to 255. We don't use 0 because that's usually a broadcast host. We don't use 255. That's also a broadcast value. So when you use 1 to 254. Okay? And in some cases, only
And
252.
these are set values?
Yeah. So the reason why I chose 100 is because you do want to have a little bit of room at the beginning for all your servers and all your dedicated system, right? Like I might have a web server, I might have a database server, I might have a DNS, a DHCP, and each of those would have a unique value starting with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So I might have 99 or 100 system before this one that requires specific host value, okay? So my server would be a .5 right here in the back. And you will see this in the future lab. We will configure the roles. So my PC right now, it's a client, so it starts at 100. The next computer, maybe a laptop, that will be 101, right? The following computer, let's say that I buy another desktop, that's a 102, 103, 104, 105, all the way to 254.
These are the IP addresses for every single
Yeah.
piece. Like
You have to know that the host value, right? Because this is a class B. So the hosts are these octets. So we're going to change, they are unique value back here for the last octet first. And then we move into here, which is a .1, .2, .3, .4. So in combination, you're going to have a lot more systems, right? By default, because each of those are 8 bits. So we'll spend one lab that we're going to talk about IP addressing. We're going to, and I think when you watch the video this week, I go over binary conversion, and that's going to tie back to the number of bits that we use for the octet.
I think we get a little bit of binary in that point.
Yeah. So 8 bits, when we say octets, because it's 8 bits here, and combined, you have 32 bits. Any question with this?
You remember the binary?
Yeah. So that's the only time that IT people work with binaries to deal with IP addresses. Okay. Yeah, so watch the lecture video. All right. So this default subnet mask provided, we can answer this. It's 255.255.0.0, right? As you click on it, it fills that out for you. So when we look at this, we know that this is a class full address. Later on, we're going to talk about how we can change this to 252 or a different value so we can play with the subnet so we can have more addresses. Okay. It's kind of like, this is my analogy for it, right? It's kind of like you having a zip code that's different than your neighbor's zip code, right? Because you register your address in a different part of town, right? But they're able to use more addresses in that area physically, okay? And then your default gateway, right? Mine is 60, so you type out your IP. And normally that's a router, so it's you know, by practice, all admin uses a .1. So I want to teach you how the industry refers to this, so that way, but you know, it's your network. If you have your home network, you can design anything you want. But by practice, we use the .1 because that's the first system that you see at the edge of your network going in. And then for my DNS, okay, coming back here. So for the referred DNS, what I did was I have you use this own system. So if we're using the IP address like this, 172.60.0.100. If I use the same IP address of the system, I type it backwards, sorry. Then itself is a DNS. A system can hold many roles. You're gonna find out that, you know, so in a network, when you run like ipconfig, sometimes you would see DHCP is different than DNS, but the majority of the time you see the same IP address. Why? A system can be many roles. It's kind of like, you know, how you are a parent at home, right? You can be a mom to your kid, but you are also a wife or a husband to your spouse, right? You hold many roles, and we really designed the system to be like us. So the system can hold many roles. It can do many jobs, okay? Because if we don't do that, we're not dynamically using the system. So what I'm saying here is this system itself can be a DNS server, right? So if you're using the IP address this way, it's going to refer to the client itself as a server, okay? By practice, we don't use Windows 10 for server, but I'm just doing this so that way you understand like how to manually put in an IP address. Now, if you have a secondary server, which most companies do, they would put in, right, maybe that's a 101 right there, right? So you would put in an IP address, right? We shared the network values, and then the host sometimes is the same or different. The same if it's the same, it's serving that role from that same system. Any question?
So the alternate DNS server could be the same as the preferred DNS?
No, normally not, right? An alternate means that this is secondary. You don't want it to be the same because it becomes a single point failure. And a single point, normally they attack DNS because UDP traffic. You guys saw this in Wireshark. It's really easy to attack, right? You guys heard about MGM incidents, I'm sure, right? Caesar paid the, right? It's a ransom deal. It took them 10 minutes to find a critical. So, you know, I believe that there's inside knowledge. So, you know, and normally we just cripple the major things, right? In security, we understand that. If you understand the architecture of the network, you need to disable the security appliance. You find your critical system authentication, DNS, DHCP, anything that authenticates that. So when I remove the DNS, you know what happens? Nothing gets connected. All the casino slots, done. That's port 53. It's UDP, right? And a way that we can cripple it is to submit requests or modify the records on the DNS is the easiest, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that when we install DNS. So, you know, a lot of these things people say that it's really difficult, but it's about time, right? Security is about a change of time. So if you understand where everything is, it's kind of like when people hit the bank, right? They just go for the safe. And so we just need to know where the critical system is. So that means from an administration standpoint, you need to protect the critical system, right? All eyes on the critical system. And that's, you know, the more combat you put on there, the more time you have. Okay, so alternately, we want a .101 or 102, 103, or etc. here. Okay. So put down your preferred DNS and then take a screenshot. And once you hit OK, it's going to say you don't have internet. The reason why is we have to connect to the domain to get the you know, right now, if you're on dynamic IP, right, you're able to get the internet. Okay, so once you set the static, you have to connect to that proper domain in order for that system to have services, right? Internet connection. Okay. Now, static IP, remember what I said, it's only used for critical system. Normally Windows 10, Windows 11, you know, Linux systems, Apple system, they are all dynamic IP. Okay, so once we're done with that, take a screenshot. Then what we're gonna do is we are going to use PowerShell. Let me redo that part real quick.
Onto the screen. And then just make sure when you do something.
Now, before we move to the next stage, I just want to point out one thing. You configure TCP/IP version 4. IP version 4 is historically used. It's still being used a lot publicly and on private network. But you cannot forget about version 6. I think in the lecture this week, I covered version 6. Version 6 is mostly automated, okay? So what happens is admin will configure the version 4, but then they neglect the version 6. So the version 6 is still obtaining automatic IP address, and then the version 4 is static. So it creates some kind of issues, right? You know, misconfiguration in some sense. So if this is a server, you got to make sure that you do both, or you disable the version 6 and use the version 4, or use both. But if you use both, you have to use the static like this. Just like IP version 4, you can go in and set this, and we'll talk about this in a later time, but you need to put in the version 6. So most of the newer routers, you can have the version 6 IP and the prefix length and the IP address, okay? And then also the DNS, just like version 4, but version 6 uses hexadecimal value, and it's able to have more IP addresses in general, okay? So I just want to point that out, because a lot of people said, oh, I'm done here, right? Just make sure that you configure both if you're using both, okay?
So what's the advantage to use both?
So that way new and old systems are compatible. Most of the newer network now, everybody moved to version 6, so you can have more IP address, more computers, more systems, right? In the case, something like T-Mobile, where they have a lot of clients on the network, that they would use version 6. But in a smaller network, a lot of people still use version 4 because it's manageable.
Should we add it now, or should we wait?
You can leave that for now.
Oh.
So a lot of employers, so when you put down your resume that you know how to configure TCP/IP LAN, they would know that you know how to do this, to be able to configure static IP addresses, right? To be able to basically change the property of your network interface adapter or interface system, okay? All right. Any question? Okay, PowerShell. So what you're gonna do is you are going to, what I did was I just have you repeatedly put in the same IP address, right? But I want you to practice, okay? So we close this, and then you're gonna type in PowerShell here. But before you click it, make sure that you do run as admin. And click yes, because sometimes certain commands it's going to tell you you don't have privilege to do this, right? Only administrator for the system allows to do that. So similar to command prompt, you are going to, and some of you saw this before, right? Either in this class or another class. Very similar to command prompt, but it's going to show up by default blue, and you can change the property for the pop-up. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to type it, and PowerShell is specific to the parameter that you use, right? So for the IP that we had put in, we're just gonna reuse the IP address. But in the case that if you want to change it up to another one, I leave it up to you here where you can put in the X value, whatever you want for the network, right? I want you to be able to do it from both ends, because you will find out that most servers don't have things that you can click. Everything is in command line, either Linux or Windows, right? When I install your Windows server today, I actually chose the one with the desktop, but most of the time we don't use desktop because it just takes up RAM space. So make sure that we understand how to do both. And when you update your resume, you should say, you know, under your skills, PowerShell, right? That's, you know, takes a lot of people, you know, a lot of training to get to learn how to use PowerShell. Okay, so here's my PowerShell. Let me put this so I can. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a get net IP configuration. So as I explained to most of you, or if you didn't hear it before, right? Anytime that you need to see information, you're gonna use a get function. This is a C-based environment. It's programmed in C#, so it's a get, right? And what we're gonna get is we are going to get the IP address. Remember, I set this earlier. You set this earlier, right? So you would see the information from prior. Okay. So if you need to check your IP address, you can always look for ipconfig, of course. But this is to really obtain the configuration, the property of the IP address that you just set right before this fed. Okay. So if it shows up whatever that you typed in before, then everything is good, right? You're golden.
So how do I get to that window?
Here we go, saying search.
PowerShell, and
Oh,
you
this
need
one.
to follow the lab step, yeah? So step 14.
Oh,
And then right click, choose run as admin. Any questions?
Oh.
All right. Yes.
The other one.
Right there. My user, you're gonna
Go
put
back.
get, and then that configuration, exactly how it's going here.
number 17.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly how it's like really simple, so how it's like capital and lowercase, you gotta make sure you get that. And then run it. And then your IP core and all that.
So try changing it, and if it does that, problem, don't raise it.
The .10 is.
I think that's screwed up.
She has to be capitalized. And then it must be lowercase.
Yeah, it has to be capitalized.
G.
See, it's not right. Yeah, so the idea.
Other than that, like daily stuff, but I'm also not planning on keyboard. So I have a.
Yeah, give it.
So, I had to go into the PowerShell, you know, sign it.
Move on to the next, like, PowerShell or, control. That's when you're searching the search bar. And because we're using Drive, we're on a whole different configuration. So, she did it last. On the regular. But we were looking at the. It's gonna be live. So in order for us to change like the IP, that's what.
Oh, okay, that's.
Yeah.
This is like, bypass.
Right. So I guess she said it's right on a different way. Cheaper. Right, right. They kind of do what you would do at a job.
I was.
Like the video on her, talk about the get next.
I'm finding out that it's,
Yeah.
the video. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Because it's not. Yeah. That's. So it's a lot of work because. Figure out. Whereas guys.
Very.
Yeah.
Helping get frustrated.
Yeah. And so, because like you saw, I can go sensitive, you're trying to get.
Questions? Okay, let me run the next one. You guys getting error? I hear reports of getting error. So new net IP address space interface index 172.60 .0.100. Oops. We're gonna change that to IP address. Let me try 160. 0. Yeah, it didn't like the interface index. Let me find out why.
Right. What you're gonna, yeah, that's exactly what it is, but in order to get the IP address, those configurations, you have to put it exactly. If to get that IP configuration, to get the configuration, you have to put exactly that. The IP net IP address interface in order to get that.
This one here.
Yeah.
In
so
the
you're gonna
circle.
put- In that one,
It's just PowerShell.
yeah, in that one, you're gonna enter exactly how that is too. And then you're gonna phase that out. Yeah. Interface and yes. And then you're gonna put your IP address. And then that's how they're putting in your number 67. You think we have 65. So everybody has.
Yeah.
So then, here
Let me see if they changed the parameter requirement. Hold on.
it says, and all I have to do is.
Just make sure I see. So like Oh, mine says cannot process. Are you-
Yeah, it's throwing a parameter error. So give me a second.
Yeah. So I would just do it. I'm gonna try that out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it didn't show what I'm doing.
Like how we're doing, they would have its own security code, which I think what we did. That's a little box for the hard drive.
Yeah.
And also the CIS40A password wasn't working. Is there anything else?
The CIS27A with the exclamation point?
Yeah.
Or without the exclamation point? Have you tried?
Without it?
Yeah. New net IP address interface index 12.
I did the slider, just like that.
Yeah, and then you're gonna put IP, that's the only thing I missed is the IP address. See how hers is, IP address. The one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I yeah.
System unit 32, char 18. Sorry, I'm trying to see what they changed that to. Hold on one second. Okay. Interface set net IP.
And right now I'm setting up. So I can- I was hold on, but it's now the other side. By
Base index.
I have the right.
You got I'm doing that, it's like, after is what, after the number, whatever.
So if that's not doing, then
Okay, so for this part, right here, your interface index. Okay, I forgot to clarify this. I remember this now. So earlier we did this, right? We did the getNet IP configuration. This is your interface index. You have to put that in or it's going to throw the parameter error. It's a bunch of red things like what you've seen. So what you're going to do is your interface index, right? You need to put this, you're going to look at the IP information. So your interface index on mine, it's shown 6. So you have to put that in there, right? So I wanted to put the number from 12, right? And the index number that you see from number 12. Okay, that's important that you do that.
It doesn't let you go back. You have to redo everything.
Just up arrow key.
it saves a few commands.
So
if you mess up, you can just go up.
Thank you.
So I would put 6 in here. And then you're gonna do a dash IP address and then the modify IP number that you want. So the X you can use any value, right? Right now it's your computer, you do whatever you want. You can always change it later. So what that means is now I move it to a different network now, the 160 network, because this is network, host, right? So if I change 60 to 160 and if yours is 35, you can do 135. As long as you're below 254, then we're good. Okay. So it should take it like that. Okay. So the interface number is this index number that you have found from getNet. That's the reason why we entered this in the first place. So you're going to do a new net IP address, interface index, because it's going to tell you which network interface that is. And then the IP address, we are going to put in the IP number. Okay. Got that? Any questions?
Yeah. How does she?
Sorry. I'm good at that. Always fill out the-
Wait, go back. You don't go
Oh,
fast.
I did it wrong.
Go arrow down.
Mine is.
Arrow down.
I set.
Okay. Move your cursor by choosing the, no, it was like this. Delete the 12
I looked at this.
and type it 6. But the interface, the dash needs to be next to the interface or the IP address. The IP address is 1.
It's the. Yeah, no, I did it right. I did it right that I got it wrong.
And then you click.
Oh, it already exists. Not recognized.
Finishing now is making you on as admin.
Forgot it.
Open PowerShell.
Not right.
Oh.
Okay, now we have. So, I mean, it should. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know.
And then, you know, you already got the address, so you're at the interface. Other questions? Okay, we're good?
No.
So command line, we need to practice, right? It's all logic. So all of these, if it's throwing you parameter error, look at what it's telling you in the error and kind of dive in and say, okay, what do I need to fix in that portion of my command? Everybody makes, you know, sometimes we mistype, right? That's syntax error. Or sometimes we just need to plug in the right value. I plugged in 12 earlier, but 12 doesn't exist on my system, so I gotta look it up again. And then so here it gives you more, right? It's definitely more information than what you normally see on a regular property sheet. Okay? All right. So next, so I'm gonna put here index value from number 12. So that way we don't miss it again. Okay. And then you can just up arrow it again and add the word prefix length 16, which means that it's 255, 255. That's the prefix length bits for our subnet mask. So we can simply, right? You can use the set. Let me try using the set instead of new. I know that new works.
I did just net IPF.
You can also do net IP address.
I did it and then I tried to do it your way and it said it already existed. So,
Yeah. So once you set it, it doesn't want to change again.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can set the subnet mask by adding in the prefix link 16, right? Because up here it might not contain it, so we can change it to the prefix link 16. Because if you had before we had it at 32, right? So now we can change it to the prefix length value that we want, which is only 16-bit instead of all 32-bit. Okay, so if you want to modify this parameter, then you just do step 18. This one, I should say index value from 12. Okay, just like the last step. So you can do new or set here. Set is really a function to be able to modify, where new is if you are to add in new information. But it overrides no matter what. Okay, so congratulations. Know how to set IP addresses in PowerShell, right? But practice. This is not something that can come easy sometimes. Question? Okay, it's really short today. Just the hard part is to get the VM things working. All right, next, we're gonna close PowerShell and then we're gonna shut down. Shut down from the inside, do not just exit out, because when you do that, it puts your machine into a pause mode. It's kind of like press pause on your DVD player. It's always gonna be stuck there, right? But later on, you're gonna find out it's harder to start if you pause it for a long time. So shut it down and then close it out. You can run however many virtual machine that you have, as long as you have the proper RAM. So for your virtual machine, I gave it 4 or 8 gig. So you have 32 gig of RAM. So you need about 4 gig of RAM for your host machine. So you should have plenty, right? When I work as a consultant, I travel with 2 laptops. They're gaming laptops, so I can run 4 or 5 virtual machines so I can scan. Question? All right.
I'm lost at the last part.
What do you mean? You just repeat the same step as 17 and you add in this.
Typing something. You're not spacing. You're gonna space.
Okay. For the next part, on your folder, I had put in Kali Linux. What you can do is you can just drag it to your desktop, right? I already have it, so I'm not gonna do it again.
So they gotta look like that.
And then right click, show more options, and extract files.
That one looks fine.
If you take security classes with me, you're gonna have to get used to doing Linux virtual machines, right? If you're doing online classes, they run their virtual machine on the cloud server, but Kali Linux can be downloaded. I know I showed some of you this. So if you go to Kali, or actually it's here. If you just search Kali Linux, you can find the virtual machine. They already made it for you. So QEMU, VirtualBox, VMware. I like using VirtualBox because that's what we have here. But you can also use QEMU on Android using Termux. I talked to a student in my class the other day. And then Hyper-V and VMware. VMware, you can do the player for free. VirtualBox is completely free, and QEMU is also free. All of these you can use. I think Hyper-V, you can use a trial version, but you would download, try to use their website instead of torrent. Sometime your AV, your antivirus will see this as a threat. So if you take ethical hacking or you take pen testing, you will likely learn Kali. Okay. So once we copy it to the desktop, we're gonna extract and then open it up. And you're gonna run the VBox file like what we did in the virtual machine for Windows. Okay. Again, I had dragged it to my desktop. I right click, show more options. Go to 7-zip, extract files. Then this folder comes up after it finished extraction. Open this up. Open its subfolder and double click the VBox file. And it's gonna load it to your player and then click start. So all of that, I wrote down the step for you here. We did step 1, 2, and 3 for part B. Any question? If you don't have the drive, and you can also download it, right? I put the link there for you. It's really good to practice Kali. They actually have their own certification for offensive security. So if you want to be more on the red team versus the blue team, that means attack for a living, then you can pursue that. Okay. Huh? I'm usually purple, like mostly on the other side, but you have to learn how to do both, right? So here's Kali. It's good for practice, so it's gonna come up. There are other virtual machines that you can use, right? I think Hackbox is another one. So you can type in Kali for the username and Kali for password. Same username as the password. And if you're not sure, go to their website. It will tell you what the login is.
Scan this part.
Okay, so this is a Debian release. It belongs to the Debian family, different than Red Hat or CentOS or Arch Linux. Think of those are kind of like, they are Linux, but they are different. Kind of like, you know how families, you have far cousins, right? The other version of Linuxes, they don't share the same command sometimes. There are some that are the same. There are some that are not.
This one?
Okay. So once that you're logged in, it's going to look like this. We're going to open up the terminal. If you have MacBook or Apple, you use iOS, you've seen terminal like this, which is similar to Linux. So you're going to click on the black square box at the top, and you would see things like this, right? So on Linux, it's going to tell you the login and your home folder, which is Kali, right? You're on as a Kali as a user, and you're rooted to your home. I shouldn't say root, you're tied to your home directory.
I tried to do a full thing, but it doesn't work.
Right. So in Linux, they no longer use the old command for inet. You are going to use IP address.
Well,
Okay.
go to here,
Let me see if I can
go to
zoom in. So if you want to zoom in, just click edit.
talent. This one.
So when you look at the IP address, right? I wore the shirt just for you today. You guys know that, right? Right? This is a Converge One shirt that they gave to me for free. So if you look, and I'm going to explain this, I think if you watch my video, you already see. So there's no place like home, right? So all systems call home based on the loopback address, which is 127.0.0.1. For every single operating system, Linux, Windows alike, that address always refer back to your home. It's kind of like you identify yourself as a self, right? We see ourselves, so the system sees itself through the IP address. I call that a boomerang address. It goes right back to itself. So when you look at this, you're gonna see that this is a loopback address, and in Linux, it's going to refer to the address as inet value, okay? So when you see the 127.0.0.1, that's always a loopback. Now, on the version 6 address, on this machine, you would see that how it has the link or loopback, they're all 0, okay? And then for the broadcast, it's all 0. Now, the difference between the version 4 and the version 6 is that it would say inet 6 for Linux. Okay? And when you see for the route for your Ethernet adapter, it's going to say F0. That's your interface, your network adapter F0. That's the first network adapter on the network or for that system. So it tells you, and Linux it's gonna go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have a server that has 4 adapters, which that happens, right? You're gonna see the F number and the appropriate IP. Okay. Remember that this we're obtaining, we have, this is the IP that's default. So the actual IP address is this value, right? And then the inet address is this value. Just like how we have dynamic IP in Windows earlier. That's what it is right now. Okay. So I want you to put down the loopback, the ether interface. So the inet for this is this number. For question B, 7, it's the second value in purple. Why does it say /24? This is called a CIDR number, CIDR. This is like the zip code, or it represents the value of the bits that are on for the subnet mask. So when I say a /24, it means what? It means this, okay? I'm going to type it here. So a /24 really represents 255, that's 8 bits. 255, that's another 8 bits. So 16, 255, another 8 bits, that's 24 and .0. Okay. But you said why? If this is a class A address, why is it 24 here? Because they are borrowing into a different class. They're using subnet, right? And we'll talk about that in another lab together. So that's a CIDR number, CIDR, okay? You're starting for Cisco or Network Plus, you gotta know these things. Okay. All right, then you're gonna go to Application Launcher, right? So you can open as many terminals as you want. You can also use PowerShell Linux, okay? So your Application Launcher is a little dragon icon. You can go here, and then I tell you to go to your locate system settings and then go to connections. So go to settings. Let me see if they changed this.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find it.
Let's type it. Oh, they changed it to, let's see. Okay, so on the new release, it's always new. So when you go here, if you can't find it, just type connection and you're gonna find advanced network configuration. That's what it's called. You can search for advanced network connection configuration. I gotta edit that for the lab. Okay, so click on that. And this is what you see. This is like the property that we see earlier in Windows, right? So it tells us the wired connections. And then what you do is once you select it, you click on the little setting wheel and it takes you here. Okay, again, what I did was I click on application and then you can search for connection or advanced network configuration. Click that and then click this. Remember that you're on as a Kali as a user, right? In Linux, anytime that we need to change, we have to sudo or super user do, right? So sometimes you have to be as a root level. So I just wanted you to know that you might get restricted, okay? So you're gonna click on this and click the settings and it should show you here. And then we can go to IPv4, click the drop down, select manual, and then type add and type in the IP address. That's how you do it in Linux. Okay. So let's say that I want to change this to 172.60. What was it? 60.0.100, right? And then 255.0.0. Oops. And then my gateway 172.60.0.1. And then my DNS server and so on. Then click save. That's all. Can you do it in a terminal? You sure can. Right? You can set IP addresses, but this is the easiest way. So all we need to do is search for advanced network configuration, right? I'm going to repeat the step. I know it sounds redundant. Then you're going to click wired connection. That's your network adapter. Click settings. There are different tabs here. Go to version 4. Click the drop-down menu. Click manual. Click add to add the IP address. Type it in. Whatever that's on the box. And then for the subnet mask, right, I would type in the classful, then the gateway, which is your router, then click save. You want to put your DNS server as itself, that's fine. You can leave it blank and configure it later. Okay. Screenshot. So when you look at the subnet mask, right, we know that the subnet mask is this, right? And so how many bits are used? Each of these are 8. So 8 plus 8 is 16. If you have 255 here also, then that's 24 plus another 8. Will it ever be 32? Not really. Very rare for the other classes. Those are research protected classes that the government use. We don't really use the class D. Okay? Yeah, because combinatoric wise, it's 2 to the power of whatever the bits. So here, the number of usable addresses is 2 to the power of 16. Because why is it 2? It's binary, right? So if I use class C, 2 to the power of, right? So those are the host addresses. Whatever's left is out of the 32 is the network addresses. I mean, a network address, subtract it from the host.
I'm stuck. Can you help me? So, that's what.
Click the terminal. Yeah, it tells you to open the terminal, so put the black square.
This one?
Yeah, you already opened it up, and then you're gonna type that in.
The IP address.
Yes, and press enter. Okay, so on the terminal, you can also type the IP address like this. So we can try that, right? So we're back here to our terminal.
That's great.
We're gonna do super user do IP address, ADDR, add 172, and then whatever the IP address that you're using, right? Sometime if you already set it on the other one, you try to use it again, it won't let you, right? / we're gonna use the CIDR 16, dev, and then we're gonna do ENP0S3. So F0, right? Let me see if that takes it. And then type in the password. Oh, it cannot find this. So I gotta make sure that it matches the, maybe it just F0. So hold on. Yeah, it's because of the interface adapter is not named correctly. Yeah, try just F0. They're always changing it. So why is it F0? Well, when we looked at the IP configuration earlier, it tells us, right, our interface name is this. We just got to plug it in here. Right? So whenever you look it up, whatever the Ethernet adapter name that the system gives it, that's what you're going to plug in. Okay? So ENP0S3 was for the older version. It doesn't take it anymore.
So when I type it in, I need to type it in right in this spot.
You have to type it into the terminal.
This
Yes, just click there and type. Other questions?
IP address.
We're good? Okay, so this is another way that we can use command line to set our IP address, right? And then now, again, we're going to change this up to F0. So this is a complete command right here. Okay. So if we want to see the IP address that we set, we just say IP address show dev F0. Linux is case sensitive for most part. So there we go. We changed it, right? See, I changed mine. Voila. Good job.
So when it says what is the init address for loop?
inet for loopback. Yeah, you look at the loopback section, the first part. The 127 is the first section. That's in purple. That's the one you write down. It says, does the system show the IP address that you have added? Sure, right here. The second address that we modified.
I think those numbers 127.
Now in Linux, if you shut down, if you just type in shut down, it waits 60 seconds. So you have to say shut down now. When you issue the word now, it's going to do 0 seconds wait. So it just closes your version of the key when everything is in it. Okay. Question?
So you just put five and
Yeah, so just type, advanced on that.
127. I think that's in the
Advanced.
you just type in the number.
Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to just like that.
I get it.
So,
That's impossible. No, I don't get all there.
And then.
Yeah.
And you can drop down then to the next one. Automatically.
And then the INET for.
Method.
Yeah.
there we go.
This is where Mike comes in. Michael. I'm sorry.
Just for later.
Not guessing. So what am I doing here?
No.
This next one. So I just type it.
I love, but there are few
So-
so if this is doing it online. He's putting it.
There, type in this, put INET,
On here.
That's what
onto that, you
if
type in
they close it, then
this
it's.
part,
I open
it says scope overload, LO, but then you
It's a scroll down.
type this perfect part.
First, like, how do you-
This one.
for me, right? A lot of it is packet placement,
Yeah, and then for the second
but
one.
we have here's here.
Sure.
I try to run it as a hybrid form.
After,
Like it's like, oh,
But,
First one,
yeah,
do this one.
yes, for the first one, and then for the part B, you did one of the other.
So right here.
Yes.
That one plus.
Yeah, so seven dot zero.
Small.
Dot. Dot.
oh, yeah, for the short term, the reason why some people would put it in heaven, and then, because the these ones supposed to pass anyway. They were like,
Next one,
and all the while.
and then. type
Yeah,
in-
so you might have
It'd be one of these two. I think it might be actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I like to make it a different color.
So 127.0.0. I get it in here, and then I get it myself.
And summer,
Oh, no, this,
No,
those
I
go
just
into
don't-
the direction, into our lab.
feel like,
That is what we're doing.
programming.
So I put it here.
Yeah, put it there. And then you don't need to type it out.
Runs at large.
Oh, it's done.
Yes.
And then what is the interface address?
I have added it to the thing. They slot my.
10.point
So it's
Oh.
on, you're gonna type.
dot 2.5.
Yeah, we're closing the position.
So it's got to ask for which one.
What?
And then we screen.
Yeah, I have a bunch of class back.
Take a screen cap. Not here.
The other ones I still haven't done, I still have to make a good given one.
Yeah,
One, the second one,
Okay,
second one.
it's the 255.
F
So-
zero. So why is it F zero? When you look at your IP address, whatever the adapter name is, you have to put that name.
I'm still right here, but that's fine. So I figured out, I was. confused which one it was, but 255.
F zero, not EXPOS, whatever.
So total 215.
Two.
Yeah, so this is the IP that was given to us by their network. This is the one we set, right? It's gonna have two. Why is that? Because remember that the RCCD one, they're also using the version 6. This came out of the box, it has it. So this is something that we added as a third value or the fourth value. So you know how when you manually add things, it's just add that on top of the property itself, right? So it's able to use it this way. Okay. Now, if we modify the INET 6, it's gonna modify this one, right? You notice, but it still would have the loop back because it's always gonna call home. So you're always gonna have the loop back address. All system calls home. Okay. Question? Not too bad, right? So for the last part, sorry, I removed this. This is, for the next lab, we are gonna do Active Directory and DNS on Windows. But put down your question, your answer here. What did you learn by completing this lab? So today we learned how to manually set IP addresses in Windows and Linux, right? We did it in Windows 10, which is the Windows client OS. We learned how to use PowerShell to find IP and set IP addresses. We also know how to use Linux terminal to locate IP address information and set IP addresses. Okay. So I like to do a balance. So when you do it in Mac, it's going to be very similar to Linux. There's slight difference in some of the command, right? Like Apple would use wheel, and then in Linux, sometimes you can just use wget or some kind of other command, but it is using similar terminal. And how can you apply this to network administration? We talked about how we would have dedicated IP for your server systems, right? We need to make sure that we set up the IP addresses appropriately for our dedicated servers. And then we would use dynamic IP for our client systems, like our Windows desktop or our mobile devices. And more to come, right? And then we know how to set up DNS domain addresses for the client system when you put in preferred DNS. So that's just the beginning. So next week, you're gonna see the backside of the server on how we set up the DNS and the authentication server, which is the role is Active Directory. So AD is my jam also, right? Like, that I started in the field with Microsoft certification and Oracle certification. So that's how I started, and it's near and dear to me, but I also like teaching Linux as well. Okay. So if you are looking to take spring classes, I am teaching CIS47 hybrid, very similar to this, right? And in my 27, it's going to be a little bit different than most 27 online. You're going to learn how to Tor. You're going to learn how to use Pally. You're going to brute force password. There are a little bit of pieces of ethical hacking, but you're also going to learn how to secure systems on Windows side and Linux side. So I look forward to some of you taking line 27 if you haven't taken that class. I think we're going to run multiple sessions. I might teach 25 again. We'll see who is going to be replacing Mr. Loya after this month. What classes they're going to be teaching. So hopefully we'll get a good person that can teach anything in the horizon of security.
So,
Yes.
Finish this.
Yes. Yeah, so go click on application launcher, which is the dragon, and then go here, and you're gonna go ahead and type network. Then click play. Okay, let me take a click here. The wired connection. The wired connection. Then click the setting here. And then go to IP versions, more settings. Click the drop down and select manual. Then click add and type in the IP address and the subnet mask from the box. Manual. Okay, save your work. Make sure we submit by Sunday. Let me stop.
To type in the address, I have to go to the
Click add.
Click tab.
Add.